Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Chris P. Thank you, Chris P.
Thank you, Crispy.
Chris. I don't know if people are getting tired of me just saying like the first initial, because I don't want to like drop your full name on the internet. I don't know how you feel about that.
You
shit,
know
so
who you are.
But yeah, it's for you and you alone. But if you're like, no, I want full credit, tell me. I'll bust out the full name. I'll give them your address if you want. I don't know. But as always, we also
Andrew works for the ESA over here. He's just telling people address. Oh, damn. I can make that joke. They're dead, right?
Yeah, they're not coming back. But we also have a sponsor to thank. Of course, we're talking about Manscaped, and I have our current favorite product of theirs in my hand right now. It's the Beard Hedger Pro. Now, I got a couple things that I really love about this. I just recently went to Vegas for a bachelor party, and I didn't have to worry about bringing the charger or any of the stuff with it, even though I don't think I've charged it in a couple weeks because I knew that it had a long battery. But two, I didn't have to carry any accessories. It's got the guard built in to where it'll adjust on the fly with this little wheel here. So I could sort of just take care of my beard and back hair. If you got back hair, you could do that too. But on the fly,
on the fly, you just throw that in, just
take care.
You're like a single lady with a toy. You just throw that one little thing in your bag and you're good to go all weekend. And
it's got a really nice carrying case with like a water resistant zipper and stuff. It's really good. It did me proud. It did me proud on the bachelor party. I had to guard it jealously from the people that I was there with because I was worried someone was going to use it on their balls.
Which they do have, but that is the Lawnmower 4.0
thing.
That is a completely different product, but
and I will not share it. I like that product. I will not share that product. But yeah,
not to mention the beard trimmer is for your beard. It's made specifically for it. Like, it's made of different stuff, like,
hey, this is America. I'm not going to tell you not to use the fancy beard trimmer on your balls if you want to. It just seems like maybe not the tool for the job. This thing's great on the beard. Also, the blade is like incredibly sharp. You got like some hanging skin. I don't know. It's just great,
especially if if your ball sack looks like Droopy's face, then go with the Lawnmower 4.0.
But another product that I used on the batch party, I actually handed out little sample ball deodorant, was fantastic hit, and
it was a good time.
Their regular deodorant is pretty great. It leaves no residue and it stays strong smelling like all day, even if you get in and out of a pool and was great. So I've sort of used the whole range of things. The ultra smooth package I have probably used the least. One because it scares me. Putting a razor down.
Ultra smooth is for the ultra daring.
Yeah, I know you like it. I know you're a big fan of it. Too much information.
I will say this though, like the exfoliant is excellent in the ultra smooth package.
It is good. Yeah,
it's really good.
But if you're interested in checking out any of these products, please head over to manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's code YoVG, all caps, at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
Mine have.
I have also thanked your balls. Wait.
Whoa.
Wait a second. We're co-hosts, not lovers. Leave me alone.
So here we are. We're in the middle of May. We're right on sort of like the first wave of the too many games
that are coming out.
The onslaught. June's the real fucking the real like storm, because Street Fighter 6 followed immediately by Diablo 4, followed by Final Fantasy 16. There's some other big shit in June as well. I can't remember. There's like smaller stuff, bigger stuff. There was some other project.
There's a metric shit ton. Yeah.
There is a metric shit ton. It kicked off kind of, you can kind of argue it already kind of kicked off with Tears of the Kingdom. It's probably the last major title that we know of coming to the Switch. I mean, Metroid Prime 4 someday. If anyone's still a Pikmin fan and listens to our show, I'm not even going to apologize because whatever.
I like them. They're cute.
Pikmin 4 is not doing anything for anyone other than like the diehards. And yeah, I say that as someone who is also a fan of a diehard franchise only. So, but yeah, Tears of the Kingdom came out. I bought it. I bit the bullet for $70. Downloaded it. Been playing it. Actually played it.
I wanted a physical copy and couldn't get one. I gotta wait. So yeah. And of course, kind of like really predictably, I thought there was like sort of maybe an outside chance that maybe it didn't fucking blow up the sale. Like it was always going to do great. It was always going to have a great sales start. The Metacritic was going to be in the 90s, but above it did land above 95. They didn't seem to mind any of the anything else. Like I thought, okay, because since they're kind of reusing the same map, maybe some reviewers might dock it for that reason or something. Didn't seem to phase them at all. It came out again. People are fucking in love with it. I didn't trust a single goddamn fucking reviewer on this game, especially anyone early reviewer, because I know and I can't go into any details on this, but Nintendo's actually very selective with who gets early access to review their games. Very, very, very. Yeah, and you can get blacklisted so easy.
Very, very quickly and easily and forever. So I didn't trust one goddamn person who had a game, a review, because the reviews came out on Wednesday, game came out on Friday. Anyone who had a review posted Wednesday that didn't pirate it. I was not. I was like, I am not trusting a single fucking reviewer on this one. I will be my own best judge on this. So yeah, and the game is like greatest fucking thing ever. Reviewers, I've played a good I've played like close to 30 hours on it now.
Wow.
I don't know how the fuck it got a 10 out of 10 from anyone, but I also noticed there was another story talking about how it was getting review bombed. I don't know who's review bombing it, but review bombing has become like really common, today. Like console fanboyism has like basically turned into like who can review bomb the other's game, more heavily now.
It also
Xbox, Sony, Nintendo now, and I'm like, okay, so if you're like, okay, so on one hand, it's like, okay, you're like me, you don't trust journalists because they're just fucking paid advertisers at this point. So you're like, okay, what is a critic? Where's the consumer consensus? That's a fucking waste of time now too, because now review bombing is so common, so prevalent. It's like, you can't get a fucking decent word in Edgeware. Like you can't get a decent opinion on product anymore. And it's kind of like, I feel like with everyone, both critic and consumer are basically like murdering
trust
reviews.
in any kind of review.
Like reviews in general are going to die.
Review bombing also gets used as an excuse anytime a game gets a bad review. It literally anytime a game that was expected to do well comes out and is actual, like people, there was a small minute where people tried to say Redfall was actually just getting review bombed, and it was like, what?
Yeah, and that was kind of like another one where like some people were saying like, look, I know this game isn't what it should be, but I'm having a good time playing it, right?
Yeah, maybe only honest takes. Yeah,
like I saw that kind of happening too, and then like there was someone, I was hearing about it in my stream last night. I guess some prolific YouTuber, video game YouTuber, was not really feeling Tears of the Kingdom, and he literally just deleted his video because like the Nintendo fucking chuds were just fucking like going nuts on the dude for not immediately falling in love with the game. And I mean, again, we said last episode, like fuck fan bases altogether. But like, yeah, to me, I'm like, and I've been in this game a very long time, and I've been with the Kool-Aid drinking Nintendo loving crowd before. But like, honestly, at this point, like, I feel like they're going. It's just getting more and more insane. Like, extremism is just running rampant, around this country and world in general. And like,
because social media is a disease, I will die on this hill.
This hill.
Oh,
Well, it's like
fucking hell.
Nuance died a long time ago, and if anything, we're just gonna. I don't care if we're the lone, rock in the ocean with the waves crashing against us. We will be the last Nuance take on anything. Hell or high water.
And that'll be the death of us.
Sure.
We'll say one thing too moderate, they'll come for us.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't want, and this is not an episode that's all about like everything wrong with Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm like I'll take a nuanced stance and say like I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's pretty good. There's some really dumb shit in it though. There's some really fucking dumb design decisions, I think, personally.
I mean, like just one off the top of your head.
User interface, stupid.
Okay.
Like so to attach an item, say you get a really good item, and like okay, I found a weapon I want to attach the item to. I hold up, flick right analog stick to said item, press X, item drops into the environment. Let go of everything. Hold right, flick right stick over to the weapon I want to attach it to, and then let go of everything. Now I'm holding said weapon. The item I dropped previously is sitting in the environment. Now I hold L, hold a right stick down to go to fuse, to activate the fuse ability. Fuse is activated. Then a little thing comes up on screen. I press Y to attach the item on the ground to my weapon. Bink, now it is attached. That is how you have to do it every fucking time.
You can't just go into a menu and drag it over?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm like fucking dumb.
That's
I'm also not even sure why it's not like part of this same ability to stick shit together, the ultra hand, the fusing, the gluing shit.
Yeah.
That is a completely separate ability, and I don't really know why, other than the fact that I'm like, well, you can technically pick up weapons and use them as props for building. So maybe that's why they're technically fuse and glue is like separate. But they still use separate buttons, so I still think like they could have done both on one. I don't know. Maybe it was a hardware limitation thing, but yeah, that's really fucking stupid. There is. The really stupidest thing is that you'll fight bosses, they're actually who require the use of an ability to defeat them, of an NPC who's with you in said area, right?
Oh.
To get them to use the ability you absolutely fucking need, you have to turn to them, get close to them like an NPC. You'll see a little prompt come up to press the A button to ready their ability. You hit A to ready their ability, and then you hit A again to execute, or you do something else to execute. But you don't have control over it. So you'll get in times where it's like, I am being surrounded by enemies. I have to kill this boss, but to kill this boss, I need to use the ability of my AI companion. I have to find them, run to them, tap A like I'm talking to them, wait for said thing to activate, and then use said thing. I don't have free will to just activate the NPC's ability whenever I want. I have to literally talk to them in a proximity like they're an NPC.
That does feel a little bit like Big Oofs.
And better yet, this happens when you can have up to at least four fucking companions who all running around with you, and you have to make sure you're standing in front of the right one individually because they all just use A to use their ability.
Huh.
This is not a Tears of the Kingdom shitting episode, but there are things in this game I'm just like, why? How the fuck did this get a free pass for a 10 out of 10 when I've seen games basically shit on for less?
Well, nostalgia is always worth at least 8 points.
Right?
And they didn't change the map at all, so maybe people have like some serious nostalgia for Breath of the Wild.
I'll say this. They remixed the map, right? Like you go to the same area and something's happened to it. Something's a little different.
Oh, cool. Okay. So it's
a
not
lot
exactly
of times though, it's like you go to a map. Oh, this area of the map is now snowy. You do the thing to get the snow to melt away, and it becomes just like then it becomes like the original from the last game. So that happens. Some areas are like, oh well, a big chunk of this got like hit by a meteor, and it's like just missing shit or whatever, right? Or like it's a little more tattered or something like that.
My main question is: are there big proper temples now?
Yes and no. Yes. Well, the answer is yes. But like there was one, like the first big official one is no more than a divine beast from the last game. Like it even like functions identically too. Well, I mean, you don't use the map to turn anything in the game, but it's like one of the dungeons. I'm like, this is just a fucking divine beast all over again. And then I went to another one, and it was like, okay, this is a proper dungeon. It's not as good as the series best. It's really, but it was an attempt.
Okay.
You know, at least it was atmospheric. It was environmental. Synced up to the place it was in, stuff like that. So like sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Well, I don't know. I think we both said this before too, where it's like it's not going to be a bad game.
No, and it's
Like,
not.
it's going to be.
It's a very good game. It's got a lot of really cool things to do. There's a ton of creativity in it. I am kind of getting a little tired of Nintendo's fucking fascination with learning that physics engines are a thing. And part of me is just kind of like, could you try focusing on other stuff too, like pacing and presentation, which is a little unfair to say because they actually do. There's way more cutscenes in this one. There's which means there is a lot more voice acting in this one, but there's also like nowhere near as much voice acting as say like a Xenoblade game or like other high, AAA game productions. So basically, it's more than last time, but still nowhere near as much as say a major Sony product, other Nintendo games by Monolith Soft, right? Like it's still kind of like, okay, why are we? It's like they took a step forward, but they didn't catch up. Like they closed the gap a little bit, between that.
You got to take that win. You just take that win. Like
I'm kind of like not in to me, it's not really a win anymore because I'm like the amount of time they spent on this fucking project. And just the amount of time in general that gaming has been at the rest of video, including their own fucking like subdivisions from within Nintendo are at and have been. It's kind of like, okay, it's not that cute or clever anymore. Like, which is funny because on the other hand too, this is the largest physical game size cartridge they've ever made.
Really?
Right. Yeah. So it actually has like a huge they had to break their limit for the cartridge on this. It's a big game. And I think that's one thing to really like, okay, in a vacuum, on one hand, it's like, wow, this game has so much stuff in it. In a vacuum, you look at it and you're like, wow, so much shit. How can you not give this anything other than like a 10 or whatever, right? But then you realize, oh, look how much of it was built off the original game from 6 years ago, including the map, including UI, including combat systems, including like a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very, very clever use or reuse of what they started. It definitely is a building on the foundation.
Well, and I'm sure other people have talked about this, but it's like it is a good example of what you can do when you're not just trying to push graphics forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a weird thing too, because it's like on one hand, it's worth noting how cool this shit is. On the other hand, there is kind of like great, but sticking shit together is not it's not new to video gaming. Neither is any of the physics shit, but it's like this isn't new, but it is done well, and it's a weird situation. I feel
I saw a compilation of a guy solving every problem with a bridge.
Yeah.
He just built bridges and like slapped it over things and would walk across the problem.
And I've done that too, where I've actually like just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna do this. I'm just stick a pole here and climb up here, and like that's it. I'm supposed to build something, but I don't give a fuck. Like
pole climb.
I can climb up a pole. I can walk across on a log, kind of thing. I don't, There's that. I think one of the other weird things is that for the actual dungeons and actual whatever, like it's very obvious what they want you to do. Like you get to a thing and it's like, what am I supposed to do? Here's these exact pieces, and it's like very obvious. Build a boat, build a fan, put a fan on this thing, or do this. Like there's a lot of like very obvious what you're supposed to do. You can be creative if you want.
Build a mech with a giant flaming cock,
which happened immediately, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. To me, that's the coolest stuff ever.
That's why Minecraft existed.
Yeah, I mean, in creativity, I don't want to shit talk creativity at all because it is fucking great. It is great, but it does still kind of have that issue of like, well, what's the tangible reward for things?
Nothing. Well,
no.
I don't know.
Maybe do the things. Do things.
As long as it's fun, I don't need a reward for it. As long as it's dumb fun, like Truly,
I will say
don't need
there's a bit of a dauntingness to it, where like you kind of sit there and like when you realize how much shit you have to do or can do or have to conquer, there is a part of me that's just like, fuck, I don't want to do all this.
So how are
and,
you going to play the Final Fantasy that's
and
coming out?
and I won't. I'm literally just at some point I'm like, I'm just gonna do like the main dungeons, do the get the main, do the main cutscenes, and probably just go on my merry way and just beat it from there. I don't think I'm going to. To me, I'm like, I don't have any incentive in this game to crawl over every inch of the world again. To find every shrine, to update all my hearts, all my stamina, to do everything. Da, 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 da. I'm sure it will. There'll be plenty of people who are going to absolutely fucking do that. They're going to love it, and I think this game definitely has stuff for that. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm like, it's a little like Pokemon Gold, Silver when that came out, and it was like, oh yeah, start over, pick a starter, and then build up your Pokemon so you can go to the 8 gyms and go to the Indigo Plateau. And I'm like, part of me is like, okay, like start over with everything. I don't know. It's one of those things. In a vacuum, like, okay, here's a really weird example. If you just didn't play Breath of the Wild or just kind of missed out on it, and like, I'm going to jump in on Tears of the Kingdom, which you could totally do. You probably have an even better time.
Really?
Yeah, just because there's just more.
Oh, and everything's just kind of fresh.
It is, and everything's fresh. Exactly. I absolutely fucking miss some of the abilities from Breath of the Wild that are gone now, but like there being so much more to the map. The underground and the overground is like, yeah, like
that's pretty cool.
I think you would. I think if you were like, I'm going to play both of these games back to back. Like, say I didn't play either game, right? Let me buy Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, with the voucher system, so you can save a bunch of money, or $30 anyways. You're going to burn yourself out real fucking hard. It's like Yakuza. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, you gotta play one game and then give it some time.
If anything, I'd actually say that's probably and these are, I'm not done with the game, but my impression is like, it's kind of like playing one. It's like one good Yakuza to another good Yakuza, right? It's like, don't play them back to back, because you will absolutely burn yourself out on them. Like, this Yakuza is a little different. It has different mechanics, different things, but it is kind of the same, sort of the same environment. It's like Yakuza on a very large scale. I will say $70 is a fucking ripoff. There's absolutely no fucking reason for Nintendo to charge us other than they could. They are just gouging you. They're gouging you like a fucking gasoline company. With the $70 price.
Topical.
Like, I mean, when is it not topical though? But like,
yeah, it's literally all the time.
All the time. They are absolutely gouging because they can. No other reason. There's no other reason. I have not heard one good excuse. I'm like, well, the game's really good and fun. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. And I've definitely spent $100 or more on collector's editions for games that I knew I was going to really enjoy, and I have no problem. I have no problem spending that money, but Nintendo has no fucking excuse for upping the price of the base game. Like, fucking that fucking weasel at NOA, Doug Bowser, was just like, oh, well, it reflects, the content and size, the experience you're getting. I'm like, oh yeah, so just throw all your other games under the bus, asshole.
Truly, he became the villain that they
He
needed.
was a villain from the start. He came from fucking EA. He's a fucking weasel. He's always has been.
Well,
you don't work at EA for all those years in an executive position, and then come out being like, I'm a wonderful guy. I love video games, and I'm here for the consumer, and I'm pro. No, you're fucking not. You never fucking were.
Anuma basically said that Tears of the Kingdom was how all Zeldas were going to be going forward.
Right. I know people would talk about that. He fucking said that he couldn't imagine going back to traditional controls after Skyward Sword either. So, Anuma fucking lies. I mean, he is a fucking unreliable narrator. But I do think but here's the thing. Here's the difference between his comment about Skyward Sword's controls being the standard versus open world being the standard now. Breath of the Wild sold like 30 million copies. And this game's probably going to sell like 50 million. So yes, this will be the standard going forward. Not because Anuma thinks it will be, but because the sales have dictated that completely.
I don't think that's such a bad thing.
No, I think again, this is like the base for a fucking incredible game is still there, but there are just certain things where I'm like, I'm these people get like so fucking enamored with their gimmick that I'm like, okay, but a cohesive plot, pacing, music, presentation, like,
and there's quality of life stuff that they obviously didn't touch on. If you're saying that the controls are just like poorly thought
there's
out,
there's some really weird user interface fucking things here. I don't know why they are the way they are. But that being said, I don't think I'd rate this game lower than an 8, personally.
Okay.
Like, I don't think I like right now, as of now, like halfway through the majority of the critical story content, I don't think I'd rate this lower than an 8.
Do you have any? I mean, I know we're talking a lot about Tears of the Kingdom here, but really, what we're getting at is that reviewers for Tears of the Kingdom weren't entirely. They were either balls to the wall, it's so positive, or it's getting review bombed.
Well, it's getting review bombed by consumers mostly, and I think, you know, I don't want to get into console warring. This is maybe this is a bad example, but I do kind of want to bring it up a little bit. And this is not from a console for me. Like, look, I'm not saying this from a console perspective. I'm saying this from a IP perspective, right? And that is like Hi-Fi Rush on Xbox has an 87 Metacritic, right? And it's more or less universally praised by everyone, right? The user score is 9.0 right now, and the Metacritic is 87. You know, which is like 9 points lower than Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not saying this from a console war perspective, but I'm saying like, okay, here's a new IP that just about executes its idea completely flawlessly. There's really nothing really wrong. There's like minor quibbles you could have with Hi-Fi Rush, but like the user interface or the controls is not one of them. But creativity in a new IP just doesn't seem to be as rewarded as, okay, here's a new Zelda game. It's got a lot of content. It doesn't fucking shit the bed when you turn it on like a Bethesda game normally does. 10 out of 10.
Is the bias, and I'm not saying bias to be like a buzzword bias, but like, is the bias towards nostalgic games because of nostalgia, or is it biased there because they're like content, right? Hi-Fi Rush isn't a long game versus a game that is
right.
going to be 100 hours.
That's kind of what I'm getting at too, is that like there's a sort of like that's another thing that kind of falls into place here, is like the dollar to hour, you know, perspective of like, you know, this game is much longer, therefore it's much better. And it's like, I really, and you and I both agree, we do not like attaching a dollar value to the length of a game,
right?
Because it
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you and I both value a 10-hour game that's phenomenal all the way through, even if, you know, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, it's not worth $60 because it's only 10 hours long. I'm like, I don't know, a fucking amazing 10-hour experience. That's pretty great.
I think really the only time that price comes into play like that is probably if it's like a 3-hour game or less. I don't think that there's not a good reason that you could charge a full $60 game for a 3-hour or less game. You know, like Rime was priced properly. That Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Platinum game was priced properly because that game was like 6 hours or some shit like that. So I do think like, there is a time limit to where it's like, hey, charging it, even if the game's fucking phenomenal, if you charge $60 for 3 hours, you're a piece of shit.
Hi-Fi Rush was $30 and it was like what, 10 hours, 15 hours, something like that.
Yeah. You know, I think Hi-Fi Rush though was properly priced. You know, $70 for Hi-Fi Rush or $60 for Hi-Fi Rush might have been too steep, but it is a long game for that, you know, for that budget range, you know. But in terms of like the amount of time you spend on a game, especially if it's a multiplayer game, no amount of, you know, even up to $100 that you spend on a special edition, like you're still going to get your money's worth of entertainment out of it, unless you absolutely friggin' hate it. And if you hate it, you probably know well within the return policy of like Steam at least. So I think it's pretty reasonable. Where I get pissy about price increases is when it's so clearly a price increase for literally no, like where it's just like they think they can get the extra money, like in Tears of the Kingdom, where they're like, yeah, we're not doing anything that pushes the limits terribly. Like I guess if the game is truly as big as you're saying it is, maybe it's worth the extra $10 to the person who's like, I'm going to put 200 hours into this game. But they're
you can put 200 hours easy into lots of free to play games that are fun. I mean, this whole thing was like, you could play Fortnite 1,000 hours and never spend a dime, have a great time. You could do that in Call of Duty with Warzone. I don't know, you can't do that now, but like,
well, I did. I put, I don't know how many friggin' hours.
I put a lot of hours into Warzone 1 and spent $2. So it's like,
no, that's true. Or a Vampire Survivor is another one gets thrown around a lot, where it's all like, I spent $1.50 on this or $2.50 on this and have put hundreds of hours into it.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of the reasoning, or not the reasoning, but the argument that got made about why games had to become $60 is the technology behind it's so expensive. The discs are more expensive. Oh, the cartridges are expensive. That's why
games are expensive to make now. And that's kind of true, but it's not fucking true for Tears of the Kingdom.
Especially when digital is the number one way to buy, and that gets rid of 99% of your overhead.
That is 30% of your cost, is now going strictly to the manufacturer, right? Like, because about 30% of a game, a $60 game, about 30% of $20 of a game, a physical game, has to go between various different parties. The store and the people who manufacture the production facilities and the distribution. The people who truck it out, the people who sell it, the store that sells it, the people who make the packaging and all that, blah 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 blah. Right, and they also have to get at least a little bit of a profit too. So that's why 30% of a game sales won't 20-30% goes to someone else other than Nintendo, right? And then if you're on Steam, again, they get like a 30% cut, like everyone, like a standard 30% cut. But if you're the first party publisher and you're fucking Nintendo and you're only selling it on the eShop, period, and you're still charging $70, you're doing it because you're just doing it for pure fucking greed. And honestly, I think we're seeing now, because they had a shareholders meeting like right around the game came out, or at least like the info from it came out. And their president basically said, we didn't sell as much as we thought we were going to sell last year. Like the sales of software and especially hardware, they're starting to slump, and they're starting to slow down a little quicker than we had anticipated. And he was telling them, sales are going to slow this year. We don't have new hardware. And that's part of me where I'm sitting like, and this is why they're charging fucking $70 for Tears of the Kingdom, because they know this is a giant slam dunk. We're going to get over 10 million. So if we get $10 more per copy, what a
huge difference that makes.
What a big difference that's really gonna soften the blow over the fact that we don't fucking apparently have any other product coming out this year.
I'm trying to think of a single other game like this where it was absolutely beloved and it was only all right. Like reviewers, okay, this is like a conspiracy theory, but it might be true. I don't know. Half those reviews, they didn't play it, right?
For like, Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, they were just like, it's fucking great.
I guarantee you half those reviews probably didn't even see credits. They probably
played like an hour. Well, they probably
played a whole lot, but the game's so big, they probably didn't. I don't know. Who knows?
How many of those reviews do you think they just read another review and then douched out something? How many content mills are there now that review games, but they're really just reposting the same, they're churning out the same shit 3 other places said,
or just like watching some footage and then making a decision based on
right
that.
Like that's where I get like my tinfoil hat, where it's like we've said forever, right? You pick a person that you tend to agree with their tastes, and that person gives you a review, and you can probably trust their review because you align with their tastes.
You know what?
That's
This
how
is
you pick a
actually,
review.
honestly, this is why streaming is good, because you could literally watch the person playing the game right there and being like, I don't know how I feel about this.
And get their first impressions immediately. It's the reason why they bribe, the various different streamers for, say, like COD streamers, where they're like, "Hey, we'll pay you to play 3 hours of COD this week." That one guy that just got.
But those suck, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm like, this is not good for me to be able to be saying out loud. But like, there is a part of when you do agree, when you take a sponsored stream, there is part in those clauses on like, do not shit talk
The game,
the game. And sometimes they're like, just don't shit talk other like competitors. Like, don't make this a console war thing. Some of them are like, just a lot of time. And there is a lot of times like, give us your honest opinions, good or bad. But don't. There's always like an asterisk of like, don't be unnecessarily like overly hard. Basically, they're like, look, be honest,
be an asshole,
but don't be an asshole about it. Which, okay, that feels like a contradiction. But and I can understand sometimes with like, hey, play this game, please don't sit there and talk about our competitor's game, and we don't like. Basically, they don't want you to even like they have this narrative like they don't want you to talk about, pretend like no other game like this exists.
Don't give airtime to our competitors,
even if it's in comparison.
Yeah. Even if you're like, this is way better.
Not having like me, not having a sponsored stream of Zelda, when it's available to the public like everyone else, that's when you're getting your most honest fucking answers and replies.
And you've been blacklisted by Nintendo, so
probably, I don't know.
They're not going to send you any money. I don't know. Fuck them. My opinion on game, like when I was streaming, I was mostly playing, like I very rarely played like a game that had just come out. One, because I didn't have the money to buy every game that just came out. That's, oh my God. But two, I also cynically wanted to wait for like the finished version of the game. A lot of games come out and they're just not fucking done anymore.
Right. There's a huge issue there.
And that's, but also I just didn't want to like have to compete. I didn't want my opinion to be like competitive. Sometimes when you play a game that comes out as a streamer, like a brand new game, someone will hop into your chat where they're like, they just came from a different person playing it, and every opinion you have is now compared to this other person's opinion, and it's like there's like a weird streaming drama that starts to unfold and shit. But if you wait, even if you wait only a couple of weeks to play it, like none of that happens. Like that doesn't. You're not getting the people that are hopping from every brand new game stream.
Yeah, branding is so, I don't know. To me, it's really kind of like, it's kind of rough to see, just how far like you said, nostalgia or branding can really take, a product. Because let me give you an example of because Jedi Survivor came out, and it is known that it has problems, way more problems on PC than console, granted, but it does have problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's on PS5, its Metacritic is 86, user score 5.8, because it also got review bombed, of course. And I was looking at, like, I think it was like Spider-Man is 87, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ghost of Tsushima is 83. Okay, really? Like new IPs kind of struggle, like.
Well, what was that thing that was floating around where it was like a Game Informer reviewer was like, "Oh, the reason why nothing gets lower than a 7 is because we only review games that we think we'll probably like, and we do." And you're just like, the most bullshit answer I've ever heard.
And then you have like Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, which kind of broke them a little bit. They got Forbidden West is 88, 89 for the original Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'd argue, weirdly enough, I'd argue like, okay, yeah, but like Ghost is definitely better than than those games. At least the combat fucking works. But graphics.
No, Ghost is really pretty. I think in hindsight, the thing that I would argue about Ghost is that it does feel, compared to Horizon, say it feels empty.
Right. Well, and that's what I told Kenny, and he kind of like was almost. I'm like, here's why I don't think Ghost is getting like the biggest reviews. There's not a lot to do in Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You fight. You have your combat system. You go and you kill Mongols. And that's kind of it. There's no like.
There's a few side quests and stuff that you can.
I mean, there's side quests, but I mean, like,
and...
okay, like you don't. There's no ability to say go fishing, play like Mahjong, or play like a game, with the locals or whatever. Build up a town, do anything outside of chop shit up.
Right, and the towns that you can go to are basically empty, except for like one or two spots where refugees are.
Right,
like that kind of stuff.
So that's what I kind of see where it's like. And this is and here's an interesting bit between you and I, where it's like, okay, you definitely have more stuff you can do. You could definitely do, and in combat, as much as I don't really like the combat of Horizon, you can do more in combat in Horizon than you can do in Ghost of Tsushima. There is just actually factually more stuff you can physically do in combat in Horizon than in Ghost of Tsushima. I would argue Ghost was a better experience overall because it was smoother. Like the act of killing things did not feel quite as clunky as Horizon.
I use the word cleaner because by nature of being able to be more creative about the way you kill things, the messier the combat gets in Horizon.
Yeah,
but
which is a strength and a weakness in a weird way.
It is, because I'm not sure the combat was the point of Horizon. So like just straight up dead on combat was the point of Horizon, whereas in Ghost of Tsushima the combat was the point.
The combat,
like everything else was wonderful, but the point of the game was the combat. You are fighting like a samurai or like a ninja, depending on your style. That's the point. And I think it had to be cleaner just because of that. Whereas in Horizon, like you can choose to play very much like a trapper, or you can choose to play with nothing but bows and arrows and guns and shit like that. Like I think in that sense, like it's always going to be a little bit dirtier. That and the environment in Horizon is a little bit less, I don't know, predictable for combat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like heights differences and shit.
True.
Like
that. Verticality.
So I definitely see where like you could say combat is better in Ghost of Tsushima. I would just claim it's maybe cleaner and that's it. Although, Horizon did amazing. I think Horizon did amazing because there were more characters to become emotionally attached to. In Ghost of Tsushima, there's like one or two characters you really kind of care about. And in Horizon, there's like 5 that you can get sort of invested in. There's more than 5 you can get invested in. There's like several different relationships you can sort of get invested in. And we both know that the true thing that sells games is getting horny about who your game character is going to fuck.
Which they finally added to Horizon, and then that got it review bombed.
Really? The sexing?
Yes.
The boning?
Oh, you don't know?
No, I didn't know this.
So Horizon 2 Burning Shores has gotten fucking super review bombed because at the end of the DLC they give you a dialogue choice, with like heart, brain, fist. Does Aloy go with or not really go with? Does Aloy kiss or not kiss the girl?
And people are mad that Aloy
shocking
might be
Aloy's
lesbian?
gay because the fucking clone of her in 2 was also gay. So thereby she is, because she's a clone of her. And people are, just the dumbest fucking thing, which I don't understand because they avoided romance altogether in Horizon 1. And the DLC, which I actually appreciated. I actually thought that was actually good on them. We don't need to have a fucking romance just to have to stick around. 2 even kind of avoided it for the whole game. There was like Carrie Ann Moss, who was like the forlorn lover of the original clone, but like we get to Burning Shores and like you're playing like Aloy's definitely fallen for this chick, And then at the end, it's just like, hey, are we a thing or not? And they basically like let you choose, like, whether you want to, like, just kind of walk away from it, or if you want to kiss the girl or whatever, right? And of course, that got all the fucking like idiots up in arms about it, and review, which is why you can't trust fucking review bombing or consumer consensus on reviews, because I'm like, what a dumb fucking, like, A, it was a choice, and B, did you play the fucking game? This is like Matt the technician levels of like obviousness.
You could just choose. You control the buttons you press. Like, what? Why? Well, I don't know.
I mean, you know why, but it's just kind of like this is where like it becomes like it's starting to become impossible to trust.
Well, look, some games,
people like user reviews versus critical reviews.
Some games and some media can be real damn preachy. Like they belabor the goddamn point. I don't think having a
you know that well, don't you, Mr. Last of Us?
Yeah, no, totally, it can. They can belabor the point. So I can understand getting annoyed by it. But when you have the option to just like, when it's just a thing at the end and you can just like say no, all right, who gives a shit? Move on. I don't know. I also don't, even games that I get like annoyed with, I don't think I care enough to write a review.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would care enough to like go and rail and rage against.
And a lot of times these reviews aren't very long. They're just like, this shit's woke, 0 out of 10.
Oh.
Like,
Okay,
that's it.
well.
That's the review. DeSantis himself wrote it.
Everything I don't like is woke.
Everything I don't like is woke. Right? So, it's okay. So where do you go now? And I think maybe we already touched upon this already. It's like, where do you go now if you can't trust critics, you can't trust user consensus? Honestly, streaming might be just kind of it.
That's what I think. I think streaming is the number one way to find out if you're going to like a game or not. Yeah. I think you don't buy a game first thing, because streamers are going to buy just by nature of having to create content continuously, especially big streamers are going to buy the game.
Mm-hmm.
They got it. Wait a day. Just go check out their thoughts. Yeah, okay, if you're worried about spoilers, which I totally get, almost every streamer within a day or two will put up like a compilation or thoughts thing on their YouTube as like an archive thing. Or we'll tweet about it or something. I think really what it's coming down to is something that we've said, and like dudes we've talked to or have commented on previous podcast episodes have just been like, I don't buy anything new anymore. I wait at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
1, to get deals, but 2, also because it's the only way to ensure that 1, the game's complete, and that I'll actually like the game. Because you can't really trust any of the reviews that are coming out before the game is out anymore.
Mm-hmm. And to touch on this from 10, 12 years ago, I just looked it up. Like Skyward Sword's Metacritic is 93.
Damn.
Just under Tears of the Kingdom. And they're polar opposites in game philosophy, design, everything. It's just...
Well, is this like a once a generation nostalgia thing where it's like whichever
Zelda
if the best Zelda in the world to you?
Yeah, it kind of feels like that, where it's like if a franchise has survived for a long time, like an old franchise, like it's still going strong and it's been around for over 30 years, it starts getting really tough to sort of trust. And here's a crazy thing. I'm going to say the same thing about Final Fantasy 16 next month, and Diablo 4,
and Pokemon.
Oh, definitely Pokemon. But like Final Fantasy 16 is probably going to get great reviews, probably, but it's going to be really hard to weed out, what you can really trust from it, because it's this prestigious fucking thing that, well, they're always good. They have to always be good, right? Like,
well, I'm biased here because this one actually looks good for the first time. And
it really does. It really does look good. And I almost feel bad because I'm like,
sort of.
Look, 16 to me is like 16 to me, but 16 is very much it's doing what I want, me personally.
Right.
With like it's so. But if if it wasn't, if Final Fantasy 16 was a fucking turn-based ass battle system, I'd sit there and be like, it's probably still just gonna get good reviews. Final Fantasy 8 got good reviews.
And is that,
13
again,
got
tinfoil
good
hat,
reviews.
is that because reviewers just assume it'll be good, and so they'll put the bare minimum of effort of actually like thinking about it and reviewing it? Or is it because a game that prestigious had too much work going into it, so it's probably going to be all right? It's probably,
I mean, even at like its lowest point, like Final Fantasy 13 has an 83 on Metacritic.
right. So is Final Fantasy
The only
13
thing
truly awful?
Yeah, the only thing that really brings it down is Destructoid gave it a 40. That was the only review. It just sort of like murdered the Metacritic on it. Other than that, like, I mean, granted, you could argue Final Fantasy 15 or 14 vanilla, that was probably the lowest. I think it is still the lowest rated. Yeah, I don't even know if they even exist anymore. Do you remember the original vanilla one? Yeah, 49.
Oh, yeah.
49 on Metacritic, which deserved because it was a piece of shit. But they remade the whole game from that. That was like the one time, but it was an online game, so it was kind of tough to sit there and be like, how do you review? And that's another question maybe to bring up is Sea of Thieves. Someone pointed out Sea of Thieves, and I forget what other game it was, but it was like Sea of Thieves. Their Metacritic's not really super hot. Not very good. And people are like, yeah, reviews can't be trusted. But there's another aspect to that, and that Sea of Thieves is a great game now. The game reviewers reviewed when Sea of Thieves came out is a fucking different experience.
Yeah, it was sparsely populated. There wasn't a whole lot going on. Yeah, I could see that. It's sort of the same with, I'm blanking in now, but No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky.
Maybe that was I think that was the other one people were kind of bringing up.
Yeah, because No Man's Sky now is apparently fucking fantastic. But when it first came out, it was empty. There was nothing that was promised in it.
Mm-hmm.
And like it had I think it was one that had reviews that were like, oh, this is gonna be great. It's everything they promised. And then it came out, and all the reviews that came out after it came out was like, this is empty and bullshit. And then, 6 months, a year, 2 years in is when it was like basically finally finished. And people now are like, it's great.
Yeah, it's actually a really good game now.
Yeah.
So that's a weird thing to do. And again, I guess really the only way to try. So like, say you wanted to get into Sea of Thieves now, what's the best way to do it? Probably watch a Sea of Thieves stream.
Yeah.
Like even now, even X amount of years later, if you're like, hey, I'm interested in trying this game, I don't know, is it worth it yet? You look at the reviews and you're like, well, the reviews are really bad, but those reviews are from a fucking launch version of a game that doesn't exist anymore. So
I think one of the ways that like Steam does it is kind of nice, is where it'll tell you like the last certain number of reviews, really positive, or reviews in the last 30 days. Like it'll have like a separate category of reviews, especially in the user reviews.
And I know some of these places are really trying to crack down on, these review bombs, people who just come in, make an account, write 2 words, call it woke, give it a 0, run away kind of thing. And I know Rotten Tomatoes had to go through a thing where they had to go and do a big purge and curation. They required people to become like subscribers, and like, I forget, there became like some standard. You had to like, user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes had to like literally go through a subscription and like process now to be like actually considered and taken into account.
What, like they have to be verified?
Yeah, verified.
Rotten Tomatoes stealing from Elon,
I mean, maybe that's what like something like Metacritic needs to do. It's a weird sort of problem here, and at the end of the day, you know what I think it really fucking what really is weird about reviews? Why do people just get so attached to them still? Because the gaming landscape has diversified so fucking much. It's not 1991 anymore, and it's like, what's the best video game? Here's Mario World, and like Link to the Past. It's like, is it the best? I'm like, yes, it's the best. Like it's not really a question anymore. Now, if you were to sit there and be like, what game do you like? I don't know, dude. Like, okay,
There's so many.
there's so many good games because every genre is different. There is no, this is the best game on the system. It's almost weird to see that now where it's like, what's the best game, that you can buy on the system? I'm like, well, what's your genre? Because
there's also just no such thing as a truly awful game anymore. Like a game that you can't find anything to love.
yeah, and you brought this point up before, and I think it actually doesn't get hammered home enough.
Yeah, this is like there's not really you
Like,
can't
unless you're diving hard into like the really obscure indie trash scene,
yeah, you have to be hunting for it. Even a game that's busted, right? We knew people that even with how busted Cyberpunk was, they fucking loved it.
yeah.
They loved it. And then once it was fixed, there's people that are diehard for it now.
No, yeah, I think that was the other game besides Sea of Thieves, where it's like, yeah, the launch game is not the same game.
Right. And it's like, I don't know, one, if reviews matter. You go read the back of the box or read the thing, watch the trailer. Does it interest you? Do you play it more than 5 hours? Then you're probably fine. You probably don't have to give a shit about what, I don't know. I don't want to name a streamer off the top of my head and just be like, this fucking guy, probably fine guy.
Yeah.
But whatever streamer says they don't like it, you don't have to care. If you're having the one that's really pertinent to me is like, if you're having a really good time with Warzone 2, you're really loving it. Who gives a shit if anybody else likes it?
You and I are like off the boat. Like,
Yeah,
we jumped off the train to the boat where we're done. We left. But I love it. Then love it.
I liked the updates that they did to DMZ until they started bringing in like pay to win skins and stuff like that, and I was like,
oh no.
Yeah, like you buy the skin and you have like self revive no matter what when you spawn in, that kind of stuff.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah. Or like really OP gun skins and tunes and shit like that.
That's so that came out super defeatist.
Oh, dude, it's gross. It's so clear what it was, and I know people that bought it and they were just like, "Oh, well worth the money," and it's like, yeah, that's what makes it pay to win. If it was worth the money, clearly, it's pay to win. No, it's not pay to win. It just means I don't have to hunt for a self revive. Yeah, like everybody else in the game. The fuck are you talking about? That's pay to win
for that. Oh my
god. But like again, if you buy a $20 skin in Warzone 2 and you fucking love that skin, all right, cool, man. I don't think that $20 for a skin is reasonable or
acceptable,
ethical. I don't think it's ethical.
No.
But if you get your money's worth out of it, who gives a fuck what I think? Like, I don't. I even will be the first person to tell you, like, don't listen to me. Like, don't listen to me on that. Like, if you love it, who gives a shit?
Exactly. But that too. I mean, yeah, I just going back to your point of like, we don't get like $50 fucking duds the way we used to.
Oh, Mortal Kombat Sub-Zero's whatever the fuck.
Mythologies?
Yeah, that Rodney sold me. I was talking about this on Twitter earlier today where I was like, I met everybody in YoVideogames because Rodney sold me that shit-ass game, and I went back to the store to tell him he's an asshole, and then ended up hanging out for the full day, and I can't remember what we all ended up playing because all of us were there. And then I just kept coming back.
Actually, I don't know what it was, but yeah,
it was the worst game. And then when I finally did tell him that he's an asshole, all he did was laugh super hard and fall on the ground. Like, he gave no fucks.
He knows he got you.
He knows he dicked me. It's like, wait,
well, that's a really good point. It's like games are not as close to as bad as MK Mythologies is. Like, that just doesn't happen anymore. Like, again, outside of now you go on the eShop and you just go through like, the newest releases and you just see the trash that's there. Most of the time it's actually just really, really trashy, smutty visual novel stuff, which I don't even know how you criticize the gameplay. It's or just like artwork bad, writing dumb, goodbye.
Well, I mean, at that point, also, like, if you're playing one of them hentai games, if it gets your dick hard, they already earned your money. If it hits you in the heart feels, that romantic visual novel earned.
Well, I did quite the opposite because I remember we used to have Anime Saturday, and I remember the last time I tried to do one on my own, and it was like, forget it was a Senran Kagura game, It was like the one where like you use the Joy Cons to like massage or whatever, and I was just like,
You just use them to massage. Is that what happens?
you like
use
you have a
them to,
massage roller, and you just,
yeah,
like, it was like.
you're just massaging up and down on their leg.
Like, well, yeah, exactly. And at the end of it, I literally just am like, you know what, guys, I don't want to fucking play an anime game. I was like so fucking just. I don't even know what like. It was like this total like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, this isn't
Guys,
even.
I'm done.
I'm like, this isn't even funny as a joke anymore. Like, I'm done. And
That's amazing.
like, and we never went back to like, and neither me or Mac, we never went back to like an Anime Saturday ever again. It was just like this moment, like, this is dumb. And people are like, you fucking play Xenoblade too. And it's funny because like anyone who accuses me, oh, like, yo, you love all that lewd weeb shit, you play Xenoblade. I'm like, great, now I know you haven't played Xenoblade, because it absolutely looks like that, but it absolutely isn't like that when you actually play the game. It's very bizarre. It's very much one of those like, why the fuck did you let the character designer do this kind of thing? Because this isn't how the character story or anything plays out at all. Why they?
Well,
it's just a confusing like, why does it look like that? But
the last visual novel game that I ever played, I think, was on stream, and the reason I quit is I was playing it, and then I realized that it's a romance visual novel where you are trying to get relationships with pigeons.
Oh, the pigeon game. Yeah, Hatoful boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah, what the yeah. I'm done.
There was a joke that just took too long to come out, I feel.
It just it hurt my soul.
No, what you need to play is you need to play 13 Sentinels.
I don't.
Yes, you do.
I know it's supposed to be good.
It's really good. It's not romance based at all either.
I can't fall in love with anybody. Is there anybody with blue hair?
No.
I got a weakness for a bitch with blue
hair. Gotta have blue hair. No, you need to like.
You gotta have a blue hair and a lip piercing, or I'm not into it.
You gotta play that, because then it'll ruin like visual novels for you, because you'll be like, why aren't like, oh, visual novels are awesome, until you realize none of them are like that.
Why aren't they all this way?
Right. So that's exactly what's gonna. You might like Danganronpa as well, because that's a murder. It's basically Clue. Weeby Clue.
Oh, I love Weeby Clue. I would be down.
It's you might enjoy that if you're in the mood for it, considering it's still a visual novel, like a Phoenix Wright style game.
No, I'd be down for that. I don't dislike visual novels. Actually, like that was the last one that I did. That one turned me right off.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's like, without, maybe that's a subject for the next episode. Just like genres that just fucking killed it. Games that murders the genre. Just like, no more.
Games that just turned me off. Any final thoughts on review bombing? Tears of the Kingdom, whatever.
Through our whole discussion, which kind of went all over the place here, I think you still kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like, I don't think Critic consensus is trustworthy anymore. Again, they gave fucking Skyward Sword a 93 on Metacritic.
Right.
The original, not the Switch version, which is funny what happens so many years later when you're not fucking under pressure, to have the hottest review of the year come out. It's real interesting. But critical consensus, really not trustworthy. We've talked at length about it. And then now with the era of like rampant user bombing, definitely not. User scores, definitely not trustworthy either. What do? Try to find a streamer you enjoy who is not sponsored. Well, sponsorships aren't necessarily too bad, but just try to find a streamer that you generally enjoy, because you're going to get the most honest to God, off the cuff, realist, rawest impressions of a game.
Right, and you'll get to see them actually playing the game when they talk about it, generally speaking. So it's not like they can lie to you. Not all. Actually, I would say there's probably very few YouTubers that, are reviewing games that will purposely edit only the good stuff. Mm-hmm. Will like blow your mind with the 5 minutes that are cool. Because they don't want to say negative. Like, there's some channels that they'll be like, oh, we don't do anything negative. And be like, okay, but sometimes something's bad.
That's kind of being dishonest.
Yeah, it is in a little way. I understand wanting to be positive, and something that, we've talked about actually before is like where we got too cynical for a while, and we've tried to like just kick it back a notch, because we got real cynical on some shit. But that's different than like someone just being like, I only talk about the positives. Okay, well, that's a different kind of dishonest then. Just a little bit. All right, guys, we will catch you next time. We've got a couple of producers to thank. If you want to become a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Due to the week was Crispy. Thank you so much. And our producers for this episode are Mutton Chops Johnson. Everybody loves it, including my dog, and then his farts kill me. They kill me. But our producers for this episode are Mutton Chops Johnson, The Pink Hammer, The Schmidt One, Scrunami, Croy35, Hyperviper89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.